Hello and welcome to my presentation titled Survival, Extinction and the Biopolitical Trajectories in the Mass Effect Game Trilogy. My name is Eamon Reid and I'm a PhD candidate at Edinburgh University in the media department there. So this presentation concerns itself with the themes of survival and extinction within the Mass Effect video game trilogy. These are the order of release of each video game, stretching from 2007 to 2012. Mass Effect is a space opera military science fiction multimedia franchise owned by publisher Electronic Arts and managed by the developer BioWare. Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 are action role-playing games where the player assumes the role of Commander Shepard, a high-ranking operative in the Human Systems Alliance military. In Mass Effect 1, Shepard is recruited by the Citadel Council to become a Council Spectre agent. Spectre is refers to the Special Tactics and Reconnaissance branch of the Council government. The Council is a political supranational governmental organisation composed of numerous alien species states. Their headquarters is an interstellar space station called the Citadel, similar and almost near analogous to Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine in political function and narrative function. From here, the player investigates why another Spectre has gone rogue, Saren, uncovering a mystery concerning a sentient machinic race called the Reapers. Over the course of the trilogy, the player uncovers that every 50,000 years, the Reapers harvest all advanced organic life in the galaxy, advanced organic life defined as spacefaring in the fiction. This is referred to as the cycle. One could indeed study the cycle itself from this perspective, the perspectives of survival and extinction. However, I want to focus on one particular issue within the Mass Effect trilogy, a specifically biopolitical issue. While Mass Effect is generally interested in the conflict between synthetics and organics, machines and biological organisms, the fiction is also interested in many other sci-fi themes, including the uplift of an organic species. As the listeners probably aware, there's a history of uplift sci-fi stretching from Wells, the Island of Dr. Moreau, to the popular Planet of the Apes franchise. I will focus here on the biopolitical Krogan genophage issue in Mass Effect, the genophage being a manufactured virus that targets Krogan reproduction, the Krogans being an alien species I'll discuss later. Biopolitics is here understood as the politics through which life is constituted and governed, how said life is incorporated into forms of governmentality, the apparatuses of rule and resistance, a specifically Foucauldian concept. The idea of a trajectory, however, is both a political concept drawn from the philosophy of Bruno Latour and the political science of Norty Mares, and a form of tracing how the player affects the narrative framing of issues in the Mass Effect games. According to Mares, if there are no issues, there are no politics or publics. Excuse me. Politics is about issues. Politics finds its aboutness in issues, and these issues have particular moments along a trajectory. Latour categorizes these moments specifically from politics 1 to pol 1 to 5, or political 1 to 5, but I don't have time to explicate this aspect here. The basic idea is that there are differential moments along an issue's trajectory. This in the Mass Effect games is expressed at both the levels of narrative content and the ludic, i.e. gameplay systems of the role-playing game. Making forced choices, as Robert Jackson defines them as, deciding to do X instead of Y, emotionally empathizing with the fictional existential struggles of characters. All these aspects can be detected if one focuses on the existential disposition of the Krogan and their relation to the genophage. Here we can see the relationship between narrative, i.e. story and mechanics, and its connection to aesthetics and technology, and decision-making processes that are both narrative and ludic, on the left and right of the screen. In Mass Effect's history, the three main council races, the Solarian, the Asari, and the Turian, struggled against an aggressive hive mind insectoid race, the Rachni. This is also a science fiction trope, as can be seen in Heinlein Starship Troopers. The Council were losing their war against the Rachni, so it lifted an organic species, the Krogan. The Krogan were industrial. The Krogan developed nuclear weaponry and used it against each other in the clan wars on their homeworld. But they were not spacefaring, i.e. advanced. The Solarians uplifted the Krogan, and the Krogan assisted in the conflict with the Rachni and nearly exterminated the Rachni. One queen survives in Mass Effect 1, and the player can decide if the Rachni remain extinct or not. Or seemingly extinct to those not in the know. The birth rate of the Krogan is naturally high, as they adapted evolutionarily to their violent and aggressive native ecology. What sets the kind of biopolitical context for the genophage. In peacetime, following uplift, the colonies became overpopulated. They had problems concerning Lebensraum, Ratzel's definition for living space, or concept of living space, and aggressively invaded other species' governments' worlds. Living space here is an issue in itself. This invasion of other colonies was referred to as the Krogan rebellions. Here we already see a trajectory. One issue, the Rachni, leads to a solution, uplift, and this solution leads to new issues, and thus new solutions are required. Krogan military aggression was curtailed by attacking the reproductive cycle, the genophage. It was deployed and developed by the Council to stop military aggression. The genophage is an apparatus, thus, of biopolitical governmentality. The virus was spatially distributed across the territory of the Krogan, and it affects the constitution and governing of Krogan life, as the genophage adjusts the fertility rates of the Krogan. Humanity politically, and the player experientially, enters the scene much later, after the Krogan wars and the deployment of the genophage. The genophage, from the Krogan perspective, is a radically existential matter of species life and death, relating to both cultural and species survival. The survival of their form of life, to use a Wittgensteinian turn of phrase. The player is encouraged to empathise with the Krogan, as can be inferred from the optional player dialogue with one of your party members, the dialogue being a role-playing game mechanic, Rex. Rex downplays his concern for his species' future, but halfway through Mass Effect 1, the player reaches a planet called Vermeer. The antagonist of Mass Effect 1, Saren, has somehow found a way to cure the genophage and is cloning Krogan. Rex is angered by the plans to destroy the facility, obviously. The clone Krogan will never be free, the argument goes. They will be manufactured weapons made to serve the Reapers, i.e. they are not cultural Krogan with a form of life. But if the players have not engaged with the ludic morality system, getting a certain number of Paragon and Renegade points through the dialogue options, coded as blue and red as can be seen in these the top and bottom image, or has not accomplished an alternative task, then Rex cannot be convinced of the argument and is killed. This death has implications for Mass Effect 2. The player can import their save data from Mass Effect 1 into Mass Effect 2, and from Mass Effect 2 into Mass Effect 3. Player choices are preserved from one game to the next. There is a player trajectory as well as a trajectory of issues, thusly. If Rex lives in Mass Effect 1, he returns to his homeworld and unites the Krogan clans with progressive political aims, a new start for the species. If not, his brother Reid unites the clans with conservative aims, re-engaging with wars over Lebensraum. The personal dynamics of the genophage's effects is developed further in Mass Effect 2, when you recruit Mordin Solus to your party. Solus was one of the Solarian scientists who developed and deployed the virus. In one of Mass Effect 2's gameplay mechanics, the loyalty mission, you go to the Krogan homeworld to rescue Solus's old assistant, Malin. It turns out Malin was there voluntarily, attempting to cure the genophage. His methods were deemed increasingly barbaric by the female Krogan Eve in Mass Effect 3, but his intentions were good, according to Eve. Curing the genophage is something good, according to the Krogan perspective. The player is presented with arguments for and against the genophage by Mordin, by Malin, by other characters in the fiction. Logical arguments on the one hand, and emotive rhetoric and imagery on the other. One is familiar with the existentially pessimistic and nihilistic outlook of the Krogan due to genophage from dialogue with Rex in Mass Effect 1. But one can also hear warlike and aggressive rhetoric from some significant Krogan characters in Mass Effect 2 and 3, leading the problems of the genophage open-ended. Mass Effect poses questions about survival extinction in these issues when it presents issues, i.e. the genophage issue. If the Krogan are not regulated, will they cause an extinction event, again, like they nearly did with the Rachni before humanity's involvement in interstellar politics? But Mass Effect does not answer the questions it poses. This neutrality concerning issues is intentional. Casey Hudson, the creative director of the Mass Effect trilogy, claims that active ludic media explores issues where passive media usually makes statements about them. While I do not agree with his assessment, it is informative about Mass Effect's intent. It seems that every text, not just ludic texts, if one follows Bakhtin, are dialogical in some sense. Most media engagement is more or less active, i.e. dialogic, more or less intense, following Tristan Garcia's reasoning in The Life Intense. Each medium affords a certain type or kind of engagement, and such engagement can be more or less intense, not more or less active. The ability to choose different options in Mass Effect can lead to a differential framing of the same issue, example the genophage, among others in the fiction, modally altering the course of an issue's trajectory. It is my contention that the value of this kind of science fiction media lies in its dialogic modality. While the Mass Effect trilogy explores ethically ambivalent issues from different vantage points, differing judgments about what is right, this is of course for the player to decide, it does affirm that one should choose something. At a procedural level, one is forced to make choices. If the player does not, then one cannot progress the trajectory. Play literally ends, the fictional issues terminate prematurely. The dialogically open fusion of speculative extrapolation with role-playing game conventions is predicated on the decision to keep playing. To conclude, allow me to briefly discuss the genophage issue of Mass Effect 3. The player can resist or endorse certain arguments concerning the genophage. Following Mass Effect 2, Mordin is convinced that he should cure the genophage. He cannot be persuaded otherwise unless Rex has died in Mass Effect 1. Here, the evidential basis for claims is modally altered. The progressive arguments about the future of the Krogan species seemingly disappear. Mordin's reasons for why the genophage should be maintained as an apparatus of biopolitical governmentality are still present in this scenario where progressive politics is emptied of its content. These modal alterations affirm the idea that there are real facts in the world and that one can respond to them differently. Responding differentially to issues, political matters, is posited as a dialogic concern. One should act based on one's exploration of the available facts, but if we revisit Casey Hudson's distinction, is this a statement or an exploration of an issue? Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope this was interesting and informative.